It is 10:24 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's the 10th day of December, 2025, and El Salvador is signing documents today here on episode 1227 of the Bitcoin and Podcast. Yes, you heard me right. El Salvador is signing documents. Japan plans their major shift for crypto, and then the teachers union in the United States is up in pencils about Bitcoin. They're not happy about things. And then we're going to run over to Indiana, where pension options become, well, they've been placed on the table. That will be the first half of all the news that you can use and more about Bitcoin and macro events around the world with me, your host, David Bennett, here on the Bitcoin and Podcast. In the second half, second half, Connecticut having a little bit of a problem blocking Kalshi for their gambling issues. I talked about that last week. We're going to talk more about it today. Superstate is a company whose name I've never heard of, but there's some stuff about tokenized stock that's in here, so I want to get into that. And then Lolli, a company in the Bitcoin space that's been around for years now, has finally done the thing. What is it? You'll find out. And then we're going to end up in Tajikistan. Just don't get thrown in a Turkish prison, okay? It's probably not good to be thrown in a Tajikistani prison either. But let's start down south in El Salvador. Yes, El Salvador, where they're signing paper and eating empanadas. El Salvador's Authentic Doc goes live. It's a Bitcoin-powered signature thing that eyes the $60 billion platform DocuSign. This is out of Bitcoin Magazine, and it's written by Juan Galt. Authentic Doc, a decentralized digital signature platform developed in El Salvador, launched November the 13th, 2025, at the Adopting Bitcoin conference in San Salvador. The tool uses the nostr protocol for its open source, decentralized architecture, incorporating Bitcoin-compatible cryptography to enable tamper-proof document verification and user-controlled private keys. Co-founder Fabian of the Salvadoran film Illuminodes announced the release during the conference. Quote, "The digital signatures landscape is ripe for innovation, and Authentic Doc is leading the charge. Yay! We've harnessed the power of decentralized open protocol technology to deliver unparalleled security and control, effectively eliminating single points of failure that plague traditional solutions. Our platform provides a robust, tamper-proof cryptographic verification and authentication solution that businesses can trust, all while making it accessible and affordable," end quote. Built by Bitcoiners, the startup addresses vulnerabilities in centralized platforms like DocuSign, which holds about 70% of the $10 billion digital signature market. I had no idea they were pulling down that kind of bread. Holy crap. According to the press release, the sector is projected to grow to $60 billion by 2030 at a 40% compound annual growth rate, fueled by regulations such as the EU's EIDAS and the U.S. Ensign Act, or actually Ensign, my ass. It's e-sign, not Ensign, e-sign. The U.S. e-sign Act, alongside remote work trends and AI-driven authenticity challenges. Well, yeah, I guess so. The platform, the core features of the platform includes trustless identity verification, private key management for users, and ISO standards compliance for enterprise use. It eliminates reliance on centralized storage by using Nostr's event-based system, where documents and signatures are cryptographically signed and distributed across a network of relays, ensuring robust data storage and distribution. Diego, head of technology at Illuminodes, emphasized the shift from legacy systems. Quote, "Our decentralized architecture empowers users with private key control and trustless identity verification, moving beyond the vulnerabilities of centralized systems," adding that, quote, "This is not just an incremental improvement. It's a paradigm shift in how digital signatures are secured and managed," end quote. Authentic Doc is free for basic use with paid tiers. Okay, here we go. Paid tiers based on the volume for enterprises, undercutting competitors' license-based models. The platform supports global expansion from its El Salvador headquarters, leveraging local talent and regulatory support for target markets in Latin America, North America, as well as Europe. So that's the end of the article. But here's the thing. It's back up here. It says ISO standard compliance, right? So it's like they're saying that this platform's core features is ISO standard compliance. Okay, or one of the things is ISO. Like ISO 9000, there's all kinds of ISO standards. And honestly, ISO standards are pretty much standard fare around the world for, how things are actually done. But here's my question. How can you boast ISO compliance when your underlying platform is in itself not ISO compliant? And I'm not saying that Nostr needs to be. I'm just saying this might be an argument that could be used against using Nostr as the underlying tech for something like document signatures. And if you've signed anything digitally in the last 5 years, you probably know who the hell, DocuSign is. I've signed several things via DocuSign. I do it every year for taxes. I've done it for, house sales. I've done it for all kinds of neat stuff. But it seems to me that somebody would be able to drive a wedge into this tech by saying you can't be ISO compliant on top unless the underlying technology that you're using is also ISO compliant. So watch out for that. It's not that I don't want this to happen. I do. I love Nostr to death, but I'm just saying this could be a big gotcha for these guys over there at Authentic Doc. But here's the real thing that I love about this. It's free for basic use. Okay, that's great, but these guys need to make money. So they have paid tiers that are based on volume for enterprises, which undercuts competitors' license-based models. This is almost where I want it to be. But why can't we just affix a cost to sign for every document in Satoshis? Pay it in Bitcoin. Use Strike to convert it to dollars on the other side if you have to, or whatever. But instead of saying, okay, well, I'm only going to use it for 20 to 30 times during the year for my small business, so therefore I'm going to pay this particular paid tier. We have the ability to completely remove all of that crap. You only pay for what you use. In this case, it would be every document that you need to send to a customer to sign, no matter, or client or whatever it is, then you pay a fee to send that document. And then the customer pays a fee to sign that document. Let's just call it 50% and 50%. That way, every document that's signed has the potential to be some kind of revenue generator. Don't charge too much. I mean, don't charge, $50, man. No, screw you, dude. Send it in the mail, bitch. I mean, I'll wait 3 days. I don't give a shit. But if you were to say something like, it'll cost you $1 to sign this right now, and I got a wallet full of Satoshis, oh, hell yes, I'm signing that son of a bitch if I, need to sign it. But this is good. And I love the fact that it is leveraging Nostr, but I go back to my original concern. Is it possible that there could be some legal ramifications because the underlying technology of Nostr doesn't have some kind of compliance rating on it? We'll have to see. Hold on. My wife just texted me here. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, now that I'm thoroughly 100% distracted by my wife texting me, let's get back into all the news that you can use. Bitcoin firm 21 Capital drops 20% on the very first day of trading. I completely forgot that this morning I saw that Jack Mallers was ringing the bell at the stock exchange because his company 21 Capital went live today. Yes, that's right. And apparently people went for the exits. Jesse Coughlin from Cointelegraph Tell me just a little bit more. I don't know how far I want to get into this because all the news is fresh, but we'll do this one. I didn't plan on it, but I just remembered that this had happened, and I found this story while I was being distracted by my wife. No, so shares in 21 Capital, the newest crypto treasury company in the U.S., slid 20% on its trading debut after merging with the blank check company Cantor Equity Partners. 21 Capital open trading Tuesday at 10:74. No, not Tuesday. I don't think it happened on Tuesday. 21 Capital open trading on Tuesday, but Jack Mallers rung the bell today. I'm already confused. Whatever. Let's do it again. 21 Capital open trading on Tuesday at 10.74, $10.74, below the closing price of $14.27 on Monday for Cantor's special purpose acquisition company that it merged with. So I guess maybe they had some early trading. Anyway, the new Bitcoin-focused company stock closed trading on Wednesday at 11.42, down 19.97% over the last 24 hours. However, it later saw a slight 2.2% lift in after-hours trading to 11.67, giving it a market capitalization of around $4 billion on its outstanding shares. Okay, so I think that the author, Jesse, has gotten some numbers wrong, unless they're talking about European markets or something like that. I don't think that they are. I think the author's just got some wrong dates in here. The point is, you had a 20% flight of capital almost immediately on a digital asset company. And a lot of it seems to have to do with the fact that there's not really any publicly shared business plans. And really, I would be skeptical too. In fact, I was so skeptical about 21 Capital that I didn't buy any stock. I wasn't planning on buying any stock, and I'm not planning on buying any stock in that shit right now. I will just buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin. But this is the thing. That has to end. You have to have a plan for revenue. If you don't have a plan for revenue, just saying we have Bitcoin ain't enough to cut it. It might have been when Strategy started doing it, and it might be okay for like Metaplanet and like the big 5 digital asset treasury companies. And no, I'm not going to include Tom Lee's company, Bitfling, or whatever the hell that thing's called, because they're all in on Ethereum. I'm not including that one. I'm including the Bitcoin digital asset treasury based companies. Those guys probably do okay. They had some existing stuff, but these newer ones, dude, you've got to give your investors something that they can actually chew on, and Bitcoin ain't enough. Not for the legacy guys. Well, let's move over to Japan, where they plan a major shift as crypto moves from payments to securities law. So they're changing the entire scope of who's doing what. Helen Parts, Cointelegraph tells us more. Japan's financial regulators are preparing to move crypto assets oversight out of the country's payment regime and into a framework designed for investments in securities markets. The Financial Services Agency on Wednesday released a comprehensive report from the Financial System Council's working group on the regulatory status of cryptocurrencies across multiple sectors. The document outlines a plan to shift the legal basis for crypto regulation from the Payment Services Act to the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act, which is the primary law regulating securities markets, issuance, trading, and disclosures. Quote, crypto assets are increasingly being used as investment targets both domestically and internationally, the report noted, underscoring the need to protect users by providing regulation that treats crypto as a financial product. One of the core changes brought by bringing crypto under FIEA regulatory scope is strengthening data disclosure requirements for initial exchange offerings or token sales managed by crypto exchanges. Quote, crypto transactions conducted by users are similar to securities transactions and may involve the sale of new crypto assets or the buying and selling already in circulation. The document reads, highlighting the importance of timely information during IEO sales. Among the requirements for the IEOs, the proposal mandates that exchanges provide pre-sale disclosures, including detailed information about the core entities behind the offering. It also requires code audits by independent third-party experts and encourages consideration of feedback from self-regulatory organizations. And in addition to exchanges, it places responsibilities on issuers, requiring them to disclose their identities regardless of whether the project is decentralized and how tokens are issued and distributed. The proposed framework would also give regulators stronger tools to crack down on unregistered platforms, particularly those operating from overseas or tied to decentralized exchanges. It also includes explicit prohibitions on insider trading, echoing provisions of the European Union's Markets in Crypto Assets framework and South Korea's own regulations. The news came amid the Japanese government's consideration of plans to reduce the maximum tax rate on crypto profits by imposing a flat rate of 20% on all gains from crypto trading. On Tuesday, FSA also signaled a cautious stance on permitting derivatives for foreign crypto asset exchange-traded funds, reportedly describing the underlying assets as, quote, not desirable. Okay, so the shift here is that, and I'm just going to use the word, cryptocurrency, is not a payment thing, it's an investment thing. You see how the narrative is shifting as these governments try to wrap their head around what this thing actually is. And it's a hell of a lot easier for them to contain the damage that's going to be done to their power base by calling all this shit investment grade rather than this is for retail payments. This is done on purpose, clearly, because they wouldn't be doing all this work to get it from the payments framework into the investments framework. So yeah, I understand that, but there was no need to actually do that. Yes, you could have a situation where, because people are looking at this stuff as investments, that therefore it makes sense for it to be under the investment regulatory schema. But that's not why we're here. Remember, Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer payments solution. It's for payments. It's for that. It never was meant to be, quote, as an investment. But this is an attack vector. Make no mistake. The more that they can shift the whole notion of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general from a payment thing into an investment thing, the more they already have a disgusting amount of regulations to ensnare, encapsulate, and essentially obfuscate from view of the rest of the world the thing that resides within that regulatory schema. It's only for the rich now, people. And unless we start using it as payments, and that's the beauty of Bitcoin, at least by itself, is that you can do this till the world looks level. You can take Bitcoin in every country and say it's not payments, it's investment. So therefore, that's what's going to regulate it. And I'm still going to be able to pay somebody directly with Bitcoin, wallet to wallet, without a single intermediary involved. Will they make that illegal? Oh, it's possible. Will I give a shit? No, I won't. Because at one point or another, we actually are going to have to stand up and take the power back from all of these people, not just in Bitcoin, but in a great many other things. But we don't have time to talk about them all because, there's millions of them. We're going to talk about the teachers union. Teachers union says the United States Senate crypto bill puts pensions and the economy at risk. This is written by Oliver Acuna, and I want to say before I even begin, what does this sound like? This sounds like the argument that the banking lobby I was talking about yesterday is using. This is the same argument the IMF uses. This is the same argument the World Bank uses when it comes to Bitcoin. It's going to destabilize financial markets or other things. All right. So they've got the teachers union on board, and don't laugh. Don't laugh. Teachers union is fucking massive. It's like probably like top 5 unions in the United States behind Teamsters, which I think is the actual largest one. Do not laugh. They got a lot of people, and a lot of these people that are in the teachers union are public school teachers. And we've watched over the last 5 years, watching, of course, people will say public school systems had problems for years. I don't disagree with that. But over the last 5 years, you've seen some teachers pushing some pretty gnarly shit because it's easy to get them to push that. They will believe damn near every narrative that you have. And if you're in the teachers union and your union comes to you and says, push this curriculum, we think it's a good idea, chances are good you're going to find it in the classroom the day after. So don't laugh that the U.S.'s second largest teachers union urged the Senate to reconsider a crypto bill that it says puts 1.8 million members' pensions at risk while doing very little to fight fraud and corruption in the digital assets sector. In a letter dated December the 8th, obtained by CNBC, Randy Weingarten, president of American Federation of Teachers, the AFT, addressed the U.S. Senate Banking Committee over the Responsible Financial Innovation Act, saying, quote, it poses profound risks to the pensions of working families and the overall stability of the economy. The proposal, which builds on a measure that the House passed earlier this year, is co-sponsored by crypto ally Senator Cynthia Lummis and Bernie Moreno, along with Senate Banking Committee Chair Tim Scott. While the bill lays out a framework for overseeing digital asset, it also raises fresh questions about how tokenized securities, instruments that aren't strictly cryptocurrencies, would be treated by regulators. Quote, the legislation on crypto that we have seen weighed by the committee over the past few months gives us deep concern, Weingarten wrote. Quote, it is as irresponsible as it is reckless. Reckless. Hashtag reckless. We believe that if enacted, this bill has the potential to lay the groundwork for the next financial crisis. Listen to the language. The second largest teachers union in the United States is now acting as the goddamn white knight for the entire financial system. They've got to defend it, man. They're getting off their Clydesdale horse, and you can hear their plate armor clanking as they draw their claymore from the scabbard behind their back to do battle with the dragon. Thank God for the second largest teachers union in the United States. Quote, beyond the threat to the retirement security of working families, the legislation being considered by the committee does little to curb the illegal activity, fraud, and corruption that continues to be prevalent in anonymous crypto markets, he wrote. Oh, so you're an expert on crypto markets now, are we? Yes. How much chat GPT time did you log in researching that? This is just, this is like a child reading the Wall Street Journal, pretending that they know what's going on in the stock market. In October, the AFL-CIO, the United States' largest labor union, I thought it was the Teamsters. Anyway, they stated its own opposition to the Senate Banking Committee over a draft of the same crypto bill. Quote, the Responsible Financial Innovation Act does not protect consumers, workers, or the financial system and instead exposes all to more risk, said the AFL-CIO Director of Government Affairs, Jody Calamine. I got some poison oak. I need some calamine. In the letter to the Senate Banking Committee, quote, passing the legislation, this legislation will allow the proliferation of assets that investors will wrongly perceive as safe. Because yes, you did all your research too, didn't you, Director of Government Affairs? With your degree in what? Policy and what? Sociology. In July, Lummis said, this discussion draft represents a thoughtful, balanced approach that will provide the clarity that our innovators need while providing robust consumer protections. Also a member of the banking committee discussing the bill, Senator Bill Haggerty agreed that the bill provides the consumer guardrails Americans have long awaited. In August, the Institute of Internal Auditors also wrote a letter expressing concern, although in this case, in regards to crypto exchanges. Quote, the IIA believes the draft legislation does not adequately address the critical need for sound governance and risk management processes at digital asset exchanges. Labor unions are coming on board. I'm pretty sure that the labor unions are their ear is being bent by lobby groups. I really don't think that the labor union, I've never heard them really talk about this kind of thing before. I've never really heard them talk about how concerned they are about a financial bill, cryptocurrency or not, right? And here they come out of the woodwork. And like I said, I did not know that the AFL-CIO, I might have to go through my notes, I might have covered it, but it doesn't strike me as something familiar, has come out against this particular bill. And this particular bill would allow pensions to invest in cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin. That's the one we really care about. But here's my issue. Then don't. Your chief investment officer at whatever union you're at, they're the ones calling the shots. They don't have to do that. The bill doesn't require that you buy Bitcoin. And yet here we are with the AFL-CIO and the second largest teachers union in the United States crying about this bill. I'm pretty sure that what's going on is they've been compromised in a big, big, big way. Just be aware that the forces of evil are being marshaled to protect those that are already in power. Speaking of power, you can get yours from oshigood.us. That's oshigood.us. Get power in a jar. What's the power? Let me tell you about HODL butter. Oh my God. It is made from ground pecans, maple sugar, sea salt flakes, cinnamon, and black pepper. Dude, it's not peanut butter. It's pecan butter with a kick. In fact, there is another version of this that's called crunchy coffee HODL butter, and it's got the same great ingredients, which are all natural. There's no preservatives, okay? You got to refrigerate this stuff. You just don't open it and keep it on the counter. Crunchy coffee HODL butter has all the same ingredients, plus some coffee grounds for that extra kick in the ass that everybody is going to need for battling the forces of evil, because they are being marshaled. Go to oshigood.us. That's oshigood.us. Make sure that you use the code Bitcoin and in the coupon code part. I think he's got a discount. If he does, he'll give it to you. But this is really important so that he knows that I made a sale for him here on the Circle P. It's where I bring plebs with goods and services to you, other plebs that want to buy those goods and services, but you're going to buy it in Bitcoin, because if you're not buying it in Bitcoin, you ain't in the Circle P. Go to oshigood.us. Use the code Bitcoin and to make sure that Oshi knows I made a sale for him here on the Bitcoin and podcast. Let's run up to Indiana, where a proposal expands pension options to include Bitcoin. And I'll bet you that the teachers union doesn't like this one either. Nima is writing this one for Bitcoin News. Indiana lawmakers are working on a new bill that could make Bitcoin part of the state retirement program. The goal is to let public workers invest in Bitcoin through ETFs. The bill is called House Bill 1042 and was introduced by Representative Kyle Pierce, a Republican from Anderson. The proposal has gained attention because it shows how serious Indiana is becoming about Bitcoin. Pierce says that the plan is about giving people more choices. Quote, digital assets are quickly becoming part of everyday finances, and Indiana should be ready to engage in a smart, responsible way. He said, that's a direct quote, he wants Indiana to prepare for the growing use of digital money, noting, quote, this bill gives Hoosiers more investment choices while establishing guardrails and helping us explore how blockchain and digital asset technology can benefit communities across our great state. Pausing just to say, I've always wondered what a Hoosier was, and I don't want to Google it. Somebody throw me a boostagram and tell me, especially if you're from Indiana, what the hell a Hoosier is, okay? Because I don't know. If approved, however, the state-managed retirement programs would have to include at least one digital asset ETF option. Just the option. Not requiring that you buy it, just that you have the option to buy it if you so choose. This means workers could choose to invest part of their retirement money into Bitcoin. This rule would apply to many public programs, including teachers' pensions. They're going to be so mad. Employee plans, Lawmakers' retirement accounts, and Indiana's 529 college savings fund. And these plans have never been required to offer Bitcoin before. It's important to note that the bill does not allow direct buying of Bitcoin by the state. Instead, it only allows investments through ETFs. Supporters say this is safer and easier for retirement systems. The proposal also sets rules to protect everyday digital asset use. It would stop cities and counties from unreasonable banning or heavily restricting Bitcoin payments, mining, or digital wallets unless similar rules apply to regular financial activities. The bill also claims that it protects private keys. What? A court could only demand access to someone's private keys if there is no other way to get the necessary information. This, according to the bill, protects people who store their own Bitcoin, but you can only have an ETF. This doesn't make any sense. The bill says, quote, provides that a court may compel a person to disclose a digital asset private key only if no other admissible information is sufficient to provide access to the digital asset. Well, this is weird. This is weird because you're only able to get a digital asset ETF, but there's no such thing as private keys in an ETF. Interesting. Okay, well, this could mean that if a court decides it needs to gain access to someone's Bitcoin, it can legally require the individual to give up their private keys. Bitcoin mining would also, okay, and now I get it. It's not the pension. It's that the law actually provides for other protections from a secondary aspect of being able to provide the possibility that a pension can provide this. Okay, so that actually makes sense. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm still confused because my wife decided to distract me. Anyway, Bitcoin mining could also be protected. Local governments would not be allowed to kick miners out of industrial zones, and home mining would be allowed under normal residential rules as long as standard noise limits are respected. The bill also creates a blockchain and digital assets task force, and this group will study how the state government could use blockchain and may recommend pilot programs for future testing. Other states have been exploring similar ideas. Texas, Wyoming, Michigan, New Hampshire, and others have already added Bitcoin exposure or protections for digital assets. And in the meantime, the Michigan State Pension Fund increased its own Bitcoin ETF holdings to $6.6 million in July. However, Indiana is going even further. If the bill passes, it would become the first state to require Bitcoin to be offered in public pension plans, not just allow it. This is different from what Michigan did. Michigan's pension fund itself made a discretionary investment on behalf of its beneficiaries, but HB 1042 in Indiana is structured to require administrators of many public employees of retirement plans to offer Bitcoin ETF options. It means individual public workers or pension members would have the choice to allocate some of their retirement funds to Bitcoin ETFs. So, wow, Indiana's getting a little bit, getting kind of cool about this. More states will follow. I guarantee it. Let's run the numbers. Breaking news, the Fed has approved the third rate cut this year. So I guess we got our 0.25% decrease in the Fed funds rate that we were all hoping to get. So yay. Meanwhile, energy is mixed. We got Brent North Sea up a fifth of a point to 62.06, and West Texas Intermediate is up 0.15 to 58.34. Natural gas moving sideways essentially at $4.57, and gasoline is down. Gasoline's down 0.65% to $1.77 a gallon. That's going to be good for me because I'm driving to Colorado, so yay. Bourbon crude is also down to 63.44 a barrel. Metals are having a bad day. I can't imagine why. We just got our rate cut. Palladium is down 3.5%. Gold is down a quarter to 42.23 and 8 dimes. Platinum is down 3.33%. Ooh, it's a rack of threes. Silver is moving sideways in the $60 range, exactly $60.87. And copper is up a half point. Ag is fully mixed this morning. The biggest winner today is easily chocolate with a 5.8% gain today. Biggest loser is rough rice, 2% to the downside. Meanwhile, live cattle up 0.59%, lean hogs up 0.7%, and feeder cattle up above 0.7% as well. Indexes are mixed. S&P in the red, but essentially moving sideways, so no harm, no foul. NASDAQ is down a full third of a point, but the Dow is up a third of a point, while the S&P Mini is up 0.42%. And what did Bitcoin do? Nothing. $92,280. It's a $1.84 trillion market cap. We can get 21.9 ounces of our favorite shiny metal rock with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 19,960,104 and 1/4 of. Average fees per block are low, 0.02 BTC, taking fees on a per block basis. There are 30 blocks carrying 42,900 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear at high priority rates of 2 Satoshis per VByte. Low priority is going to get you in at 0.4 and 1.05 zettahashes per second. Still not seeing the minor capitulation that was forecasted. Not exactly sure what's going on there, but I feel safe and sound in my Bitcoin. That's a lot of network hash to protect it from the tulip narrative, which was yesterday's episode of Bitcoin. And I got C4OZ with 2174 sats says, thanks, man. Well, you're welcome. C4OZ with another donation of 5,435 sats says good stuff, but that was from Beals, Banks, and Bells, the episode before. Paul Surnine with 500 says, thanks for another great overview of current news. Take your time and spend some amazing days off-grid with your family, my friend. Wishing you a relaxing festive season as well as a great start into the new year. We'll all see you on the other side. Dude, Paul, I appreciate that, but you know, I just feel compelled. I like doing this show. It's not like you gotta, you know, it's not like it's pulling teeth to get me to do this thing. I absolutely love it. Even though I get notes like this from you derogatory, you demon BTC master raking me over the coals, but giving me 121 Satoshis while they do it. Please don't ever call my hometown, the city that I love, a shithole, especially if you've never been here. You can refer to her as the D or Motown or the Motor City. Respectfully, Coach Uzoma. Point taken, dude. I called Detroit a shithole. I did. I did. Have I ever been there? No. I see news. I've understood that Detroit has had some serious declines over the past, well, since the late 70s. And the 80s were, you know, kind of okay, I guess, but getting into the 90s and beyond really started going downhill. Does that mean it's a shithole? If somebody loves living in a town, that town is not a shithole to them. So I do have to actually make my apologies I am sorry. No caveats, no buts, no nothing. I'm sorry that I called your town a shithole. I've been to shitholes before. I have. I consider Dallas, Texas a shithole. My sister lives there. She kind of considers it a shithole too. And it's not because it's like bombed out, just running amok with crime, although Dallas isn't exactly, a law-abiding city. It's more that it's just so packed. There's too many people. There's too much traffic. There's too much concrete. There's too much asphalt. That's why I don't live there. I don't think I don't think Dallas is a shithole because it's Dallas or because it's just inherently bad. I like visiting Dallas. I just don't want to live there, right? So there's some aspects of when I call something a shithole, I don't actually mean that you might as well be in like the worst city in the world in Turkey. I just mean that it's definitely not my cup of tea, but, cities are some of them are really in decline. Chicago's counted amongst them. LA, I mean, God, and San Francisco. There's been an exodus out of those towns, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of people that are going, do I really need this? Is there any way that I can work online? Is there any way that I don't have to worry about this commute? Is there any way that I don't have to worry about the crime? Is there any way I can get out? And people are getting out. But what I do love are people that take ownership of their town, like BTC Master. She, BTC Master loves that town. I'm happy. And again, I do apologize for calling your town a shithole. Pies with 121 says, thank you, sir. No, thank you. And is that it? I do believe that is it. Yep, that's it. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you could use. Judge has blocked Connecticut, the state, from enforcing its gambling laws against Kalshi, at least for now. It's a temporary order, so they got some time here. Vismaya V from decrypt.co is writing, a federal judge has temporarily blocked Connecticut from enforcing gambling laws against prediction market Kalshi, ordering state regulators to hold off on any enforcement action while the court weighs the company's request for a preliminary injunction. In a Monday order, U.S. District Court Judge Victor Bolden instructed state officials to refrain from taking enforcement action regarding any conduct described in a cease and desist letter. The order follows Connecticut's Department of Consumer Protection issuing a cease and desist letter last week to Kalshi, Robinhood, and Crypto.com, demanding that they halt operations in the state over what the regulators labeled as unlicensed online sports gambling. The temporary pause will remain in place pending the court's decision on Kalshi's motion for a preliminary injunction, with oral arguments scheduled for February the 12th, 2026. So they got a few months to figure this out. The gaming division of Connecticut's Department of Consumer Protection said it issued the cease and desist letters directing all 3 platforms to stop offering sports event contracts to Connecticut residents and allow local users to withdraw their funds. The department warned that noncompliance could trigger civil penalties and criminal sanctions under the state gaming and consumer protection laws. Yeah, Guido, Kneecapper, McGinty ain't going to be too happy about that shit, man. They don't want Kalshi playing in their backyard. The company, Kalshi, said that it operates under exclusive federal jurisdiction as a CFTC designated contract maker, making state gambling regulations inapplicable. The platform also pointed out that Connecticut's gambling laws are preempted by the Commodity Exchange Act and its implementing regulations. The company cited a similar case in New Jersey, where a federal court granted Kalshi a preliminary injunction in April, finding that the CFTC's exclusive jurisdiction likely preempts state gaming laws as applied to designated contract markets. The brewing fight between Kalshi and state regulators has spread nationwide, with multiple states challenging the company's operations. Last week, Kalshi lost the preliminary injunction that had protected it from enforcement in the state of Nevada. The company sought to preserve the injunction on appeal, citing imminent criminal enforcement in the state, and regulators then agreed to hold off on enforcement while the court reviews its request. However, they noted that Kalshi has unreasonably refused to stop its activities in the state, even while Crypto.com and Robinhood have entered into agreements with state regulators to avoid enforcement pending appeal. Under the court's briefing schedule, Connecticut has to file its response to Kalshi's preliminary injunction motion by January 9th, 2026, with Kalshi's reply due January 30th, 2026. Daniel Wallach, founder and principal of Wallach Legal LLC, the firm specializing in sports wagering and gaming law, previously told Decrypt that he expects Arizona and Illinois, which have issued cease and desist letters, have warned state licensed operators against prediction markets will likely litigate with Kalshi next, and Kalshi's chief competitor Polymarket was cleared by the CFTC to resume U.S. operations last month, almost 4 years after regulators forced it offshore for alleged non-compliance. On prediction platform Myriad's perpetual sentiment market, nearly 70% of users favor Polymarket over Kalshi. That may change. Kalshi's kind of a up and comer there. So Connecticut getting cock blocked by a federal judge should be interesting. Anyway, let's get on to Superstate. Their new direct issuance programs let public companies raise capital using tokenized stock. What could possibly go wrong from the block? The United States Securities and Exchange Commission is set to allow firms to raise funds by selling newly issued tokenized shares directly. Oh my God, hold on for a second. Why did you do that? I got a banner just came right across my screen while I was trying to read that. Newly issued tokenized shares directly to investors paying in stablecoin. On Wednesday, Superstate, the crypto-focused fintech firm founded by Compound creator Robert Leshner, unveiled a new blockchain-based service for direct issuance programs on Ethereum and Solana. The service will enable companies to secure funding by issuing on-chain securities, including tokenized versions of their existing SEC-registered shares or a new share class. According to a press release, the first issuer offerings are expected to go live in 2026. Quote, if public companies are going to raise capital faster, more efficiently, and more globally, primary issuance needs rails that supports instant settlement, transparent participation, and compliance by design, not bolted on workarounds, Superstate CEO Leshner said. With the encouragement of the Trump administration, regulators like the SEC and Commodities Futures Trading Commission have pushed crypto financial experimentation and begun fast-tracking new products and services as part of an attempt to modernize United States capital markets and implement clear crypto guidance. Superstate is one of the leading firms advocating for and advancing the use of blockchain technology to re-engineer capital formation. Tokenization, in particular, may help overhaul the financial sector by creating digitally transferable, traceable, and programmable assets that meet existing compliance requirements. Users of Superstate's new tokenization offering will continue to file standard registration statements, like an S3 shelf filing, though the direct issuance structure will enable firms to sell securities without an underwriter. Galaxy and SharpLink both previously tokenized their own shares using Superstate's SEC-registered transfer agent infrastructure called Opening Bell to connect securities, issuers, and investors. However, neither issued new securities to raise capital. Instead, existing shares already held by stockholders were moved on-chain for secondary holding and potential DeFi integrations. Using stablecoins natively also means issuers receive proceeds instantly without waiting for cash settlement, the firm said. Likewise, approved investors will immediately receive the tokenized assets in their wallets, These tokens may have added on-chain utility where permitted, in addition to the, quote, same economic and governance rights as traditional shares. And that was said by Superstate. Quote, both the issuance contract and the tokenized shares delivered to investors are natively composable with the broader on-chain ecosystem enabling integrations as compliant custody, settlement, and portfolio tools continue to evolve. Adding that on-chain securities can also have defined parameters for when and how shares are issued. Superstate noted that the program will be open to retail and institutional investors who are KYC verified. Quote, the importance of facilitating capital formation and reducing regulatory and operational drag has never been clearer, and that mismatch is becoming harder to justify as markets modernize. It's time for a reset that better serves investors and smaller issuers and makes clear that on-chain capital raising should be possible without persistent uncertainty, Leshner said. Okay, so there was something up here. Okay, here's the statement that made me start thinking. Quote, if public companies are going to raise capital faster, more efficiently, and more globally, primary issuance needs rails that supports instant settlement and yada, yada, yada. Raising capital by companies globally. Now, it's not that that hasn't ever been done. Of course it can be done, but this is going to change. I'm not, it's not that I'm happy about it. I don't care here. I think tokenization of everything is sort of like a rehashing of put everything on the blockchain, you know, a blockchain everything. Well, now fuck that. Let's tokenize everything. Yeah, that's the ticket. Let's do that. No, it's all the same. Still, for an American company to be able to raise capital from retail in Indonesia is not something we've really seen before. Generally speaking, the person in Indonesia might go to a broker and say, hey, have you got any deals for me? And blah, blah, you know, back and forth and back and forth. But now there's a lot of middlemen that are actually going to be made irrelevant if this thing works and works well and remains working. In other words, actually demonstrates actual utility. If it does, it ain't going to be just the teachers union that's up in arms about Bitcoin. It's going to be every broker under the sun saying, wait a minute, you mean Joe Santos can go directly to their phone and and invest in any company in the world without me having anything to cut from it? Oh, we can't have that. Expect a fight, ladies and gentlemen. Expect a fight. Now, Lolli. Lolli enables Lightning Network withdrawals, and this is written by Pamela for Lightning.news. Founded in 2018 by Alex Adelman and Matt Center, Lolli is a rewards application that allows users to earn sats when shopping online at partner retailers. In July of 2025, Lolli was acquired by Thesis, a venture studio that builds Bitcoin native products such as Mezzo and Fold. Following the acquisition, Lolli focused on upgrading its infrastructure to support a circular Bitcoin economy and expanding its services globally. Prior to this particular update, Lolli users faced high withdrawal minimums, like 30,000 sats. You had to have 30,000 sats in your Lolli wallet before you could withdraw. I was never able to hit that number, and I was using Lolli. So, you know, I need to go back and see if I can do this. Anyway, it was a slow process in time and associated with on-chain transactions or with the recently integrated Mezzo sidechain. To make the platform update, BTC or Bitcoin withdrawals had additionally been suspended on the platform since July of 2025. Yeah, I remember that pissing some people off. But by implementing withdrawals on Lightning, Lolli can offer lower cost, speed, and control of earned rewards. So how do you do it? The process requires a Lightning-compatible wallet such as Wallet of Satoshi, Phoenix, Breeze, or my favorite, Alby. To withdraw funds, users must follow these steps. 1. Add a Lightning address to their Lolli account. 2. Select Lightning as the withdrawal method. 3. Specify the amount of sats to withdraw or select the maximum button to withdraw the full balance. And then 4, confirm the transaction to receive funds within seconds. So here's the user response. The early community response has included relief at being able to withdraw the rewards, but also some confusion and technical troubleshooting, like availability. Users have confirmed that the withdrawal option is back and visible within the updated app, so I guess that means it went away for a little bit. Address support. The platform accepts the symbol @ style Lightning addresses, but it does not appear to support Lightning Network addresses. In fee policy, Lolli had promised withdrawal fees would be a fraction of a penny, but users' experience is that higher fees are being charged. The author tested in the app and was shown a fee of 0.75%. And then there's technical glitches. Some users reported bugs, noting that the app just hangs there when attempting to withdraw deposits, or rather withdraw despite the address confirming. And while the update fulfills a major promise made by the new leadership to prioritize instant and automated payouts, early reports suggest some stability and policy clarity issues still need to be ironed out. Well, that doesn't surprise me, but at least Lolli finally pulled the trigger. This has been a major thorn in the side of Lolli users, well, ever since Lolli came out. And I never really got miffed about it because, I was just glad that people were entering into this new economy, and I still love Lolli. Lolli is a great company. If you buy stuff and you buy stuff from a retailer that's a member partner with Lolli, you get sats back on your purchase, dude. I'm not going to bitch about that, but I would bitch about being thrown in for 8 years into prison in Tajikistan, because that's what happens. Up to 8 years in prison for Bitcoin mining using stolen electricity. My God, the humanity. Atlas21.com. Tajikistan has decided to adopt a fairly drastic measure against those who mine Bitcoin using electricity illegally siphoned from the grid. The new legislative provisions introduce heavy fines and prison sentences of up to 8 years at a time when the Central Asian country is grappling with severe energy shortages during the winter months. Tajikistan's bicameral parliament has recently approved legislative amendments introducing criminal and financial penalties for the unauthorized use of electricity to produce digital assets. According to reports by Asia Plus, a specific article has been added to the country's criminal code targeting the illegal use of electricity for the production of virtual assets. Under the new rules, individuals caught powering mining equipment in violation of the law face fines ranging from approximately $1,600 to $4,000 in United States dollars, by the way. They use this currency called Somani. But it's what we would get fined is anywhere between $1,600 and $4K. And in the case of organized groups, members may be fined to just over $8,000, as well as face prison sentences of anywhere between 2 to 5 years. And for cases involving electricity theft or a particularly large scale electricity theft for mining purposes, authorities have established even harsher penalties with prison terms ranging from 5 to 8 years. So if you live in Tajikistan and you're planning on stealing energy from the national grid, don't. You'll stay out of jail. And I don't want you in jail because we're going into Christmas, y'all. Like I said, I was going to be leaving on Monday, but it now looks like we won't be leaving until Wednesday. So I might be able to cut a couple of more shows here at the base station in Eastern Washington in the United States. Until that time, I will see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and
And I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.